Hello everyone and welcome back to CPD Readings. I'm your host as always, CPD. So in our last episode, episode 6, we were with the Black Shepherds as Dalmeth and Arkwin finally made their way into the town of Rakshaw. Now we're going to be skipping away from their story now at the minute and we're going to be going back to Kelby's story. So here today we'll have Khontun's third chapter, I'm pretty sure. So without wasting any more time, let's get straight into it. I sit up in bed, sweat dripping from every pore, my breathing heavy and out of control, as my heart thunders in my chest as if it were a feral beast testing the walls of a cage. I look around the dark room. It seemed as though the ceiling was about to crush me, not falling as much as creeping ever closer towards me. I could see tall shadows looming in the darkness, unmoving, just eerily creepy as they stand affixed in the corners of the room as they silently watched on. Watch all you want, I say to myself. I'll give you something to look at. As I reach to my side, thinking to find my hammer. Instead, I find a candle. Lighting it, my eyes slowly adjust as the figures that once loomed are banished by the light, only their menacing memory left behind. As I look around, everything seemed fine. The ceiling that once threatened to crush me had since retreated, and was now content to stay in its proper place. Apart from the freshly lit candle, there was no other source of light that I could see. Then why do I feel so panicked? Was it a dream? And then I see the source of the noise. The wind had taken the damn shutter off its latch again, and was banging against the now open window. Allowing my head to fall heavily against the still warm pillow, my hands coming up to meet my face. You're losing your shit, Kelby, I think to myself as I rub the sleep from my eyes. Stirring in the middle of the night, looking for your hammer to destroy the great enemy, a feckin' wooden shutter. At that moment, I feel a hand as it rests lightly on my arm. Kelby? A voice said in the dark. Were it any other voice in the world, I would be jumping out of bed in a panic, readying myself for action. But not her voice. Were I left alone, were I left to the cold and tormented endlessly by the machinations of my mind, I would still know her voice. Her touch gave comfort. Sorry, Cat, I say, placing my large hand over her delicate one and kissing her fingers lightly. It was just a bad dream. This will be nothing new to her. I have loved this woman for years, and she knows all too well what nightmares I would bring home with me whenever we would go trading. She knew that it would take time for all of me to return to her, and I knew that she would patiently wait for that day. Try to sleep, love. It's still early. Daylight is still a couple of hours off. I look out our shutter window, and she was right. The blue of the sky hadn't even begun to reveal its face yet. Bright stars were still clearly visible as they danced on the black backdrop. I will. I'm sorry for waking you. As I say the words, I feel her finger flick against the side of my face. Don't apologize for what you can't control. And with that, she rolled over and went back to sleep. When on voyage, everything would have me on guard. The winds, the waves, the haul. The sound of every little hit or bump. Wondering if it was just the waves or had razorbacks attacked during the night while I was sleeping. But I didn't have to worry about that here. Life was quiet and peaceful here in Crete, and although I know that, during the sleeping hours my mind would run away with itself. It would remember the unforgiving horrors of the sea. I would helplessly watch on as men were pulled to the depths. I would hear the sound of the spear that made a ruin of Mart's face. The fear I felt as I fought with monsters. It would take some time to adjust. It always took time for my brain and body to get used to being at home again. To ease my mind, I walk around my home, looking at its scars and signs of age. As I walk, I take a moment to look in on my boys, Jared and Kyle. Jared, the eldest, was neatly wrapped up in his blanket and sleeping quietly. His brother, on the other hand, couldn't have painted a starker contrast if he tried. He was sprawled out across his bed, blanket on the floor. I smile at the image. as I brush my hand along the entrance to their room. My fingers find the notches there, where Caitlin would have measured their heights, and I smile at the memory of Kyle excitedly telling his older brother that he was taller than him at their age. I move on to the other bedroom, where Kayla was softly sleeping. Being the youngest, her room was right next to her parents'. I walk quietly into the room. The memories of playing with her filled me with love. I love my family. My sons were strong and obedient. They brought their mother and I great pride and made us look forward to seeing the great men they would surely become. But Kayla, my sweet Kayla, was like a whirlwind, always moving, always running, and wanting to play with her much bigger brothers. I pulled a blanket over her small shoulder and gently kiss her head as I whisper my greatest joy, before going back to my own bed, lying down and closing my eyes. What seemed like minutes later, I'm woken by the noise of the birds' call as they sat comfortably in the tree just outside the window. I swear to Duosnos, I'm going to cut down that tree someday, I sleepily moan. Rolling over, I see Caitlin had already woken. Her side of the bed was cold to the touch. She must be up a while already. Sitting up, I rub the sleep from my eyes and give myself light, repeating slaps to the face. Okay, time to start in the day, I say to myself as I get out of bed. I walk through our home, almost floating on the smells of bacon and fresh bread. The smells that came from Kate's kitchen were always sublime. I never knew what her secrets were in that little kitchen, but she could make an old boot taste like a meal fit for the high priest of the church. I was snapped out of my thoughts by the sound of my loving wife. Kelby, get your arse in here and help me. Turning from the small sink, drying her wet hands with a small rag at her waist. Well, good morning, your majesty, Caitlin says, her tone mocking. Would you like to get back into bed and have me bring you the food? Well, what use is a loving wife if she doesn't treat you every now and again? I ask as I wrap my arms around her waist, bringing her close and breathing in her smell. Wife? Sounds like you prefer a slave instead of a wife. Nah, a slave wouldn't smell nearly as good, I say, giving her a kiss on the cheek. Or taste nearly this nice either. I add, as I work my way down her neck. Get off me, you old fecker, she says, shrugging me off with a laugh. Go on now, make yourself useful, and make sure everything's on the table. Go on, I'm almost finished here anyway. I make my way through our small home to the main room where our family would gather and eat our meals. As soon as I step into the room, I'm set upon from all sides. Hands and arms all over me, grabbing and pulling in different directions. I let out a roar and a snarl, as if I were a bear come across an invader in my den. My shout is answered in kind, but from several smaller voices. Amidst the shouts and wails, I can hear the voice of Jared. Take him down, we have him, we can get hit. He was suddenly cut off mid-sentence, as I lift him from the ground by his ankle. Absently, I think that at 14 he weighs deceptively more than I thought he would. The young boy's world flips upside down. Come on, Jared, I expected better than that. Aren't you almost a man? I ask mockingly. This time we're gonna. His reply trails off as his words devolve to a single shouting note as he was tossed through the air before being mercifully caught by the couch. As Caitlin walked in on the scene, she was faced with what was typical enough for the morning time, whenever her husband would return from one of those raiding trips. Often away for weeks at a time, but when he came home, the children tended to have ungodly amounts of energy. If only they had so much conviction in their chores as they do in their games, she thought. Caitlin watched them for a moment, seeing her husband, covered in their kids, one wrapped tight around his leg, the other on his back, and the oldest, well, he was being flung onto the couch and landing with a massive smile and laughing. Oi, you little rugrats, get off your father and go wash up. Unraveling themselves from their massive father, their 3 children hurriedly ran to wash up. Kayla peeked back into the room a few seconds later, giving a quick look at her mother, who had her back turned as she set the breakfast table. One day she would know that Kate had eyes in the back of her head, but I wasn't about to disabuse my little cub just yet. Kayla, looking back at me, a slightly nervous look in her eye, as if she knew that if she didn't keep her eye on me, I'd disappear into another adventure and leave her stranded here again with no daddy to play with. I go to one knee, giving her a low growl, imitating a wild animal. Clearly loving the opportunity to play more, she laughs and runs at me, her head low as if she was a charging bull. I reach out, picking her up and holding her tight to me. Hey little cub, did you miss daddy? Kayla nods vigorously, her fiery curly hair bouncing wildly, her round, pudgy cheeks filling with dimples as she smiles, exposing one of her missing front teeth. I stand there, smiling back at her, wondering at the mad reasoning that made me leave this precious life of mine and go travelling the seas. My large fingers poke at the sides of her neck, tickling her as she squirms in my arms back and forth, trying to get away from me, spitting with laughter all the while. I bring her in close and give her a small squeeze, which she replies in kind by squeezing me as hard as her little hands could. A few seconds go by and I start making mock choking sounds. As she releases her grip, wow, you've gotten so strong, little Kayla. Let me see your muscles. I squeeze her upper arm and say, wow, you'll be stronger than your brother soon. The little girl smiles and laughs. Her mood goes a little somber as she plays with my beard. Are you staying this time, Pa? She asks quietly. I think I'll stay for a while. We need to wait for more crops to grow, and I continue talking to her while carrying her till we get washed up. It was so good to be home. We sit around the table, devouring the morning meal, as I tell them stories of my travels. I tell them stories I had heard from other traders who had traveled the great ocean to trade. Stories about their homelands, about great warriors who would ride their horses around the lands protecting the people. Another story about a man who could lift giant boulders with one hand, but lost his love because he touched mortal soil. A story of a wicked witch who, out of jealousy, cursed 3 children, turning them into strange creatures, so that she could have the king all to herself. I tell them about the technological marvels of the Leisure people, about their high towers, their flying carts, and their ability to converse without even moving their lips. Then I tell them about the religious wonders and magics of the Melfest priests, about their eternal sacrament, about how their faith could move objects as heavy as a bull and throw them as if they were giants, how their prayers would summon beams of light, and how they would go to strangers, giving them food and trying to heal their sick. That was gorgeous as always, my love, I say, picking up the dirty cooking pans and pots as I make my way to the sink. You should think about opening your own tavern, Kate. We could go to the town and open one. Your tavern would sell only the best food, and whiskey, of course. Only the best stews and whiskey, Caitlin said, musing over the idea. Then I could take all my sacks of gold and shack up with the Lord in his manor. You know, like a proper lady, she said, with a mocking curtsy. Please, y'all wouldn't survive a week without me. Now, me and the women are going to the fields today. We're running low on herbs and I need to get more fauna file. So, when you finish up with those pots, make sure the boys start working. Oh, and I'm taking Kayla with me. It's easier to teach her about the different flowers and what to look for when we're in the fields. Who will look after the hens? I ask. Well, my dear, I guess you just have to figure that out now, won't you? Oh, speaking of which, I'm taking some chickens to Dala. She was asking after some of our chickens the other week, and I might be able to get a good deal from her. I'll see you before it gets dark. And with a quick kiss on the cheek, she whispers in my ear, it's good to have you back. The next few days were almost blissful. No knocking ships or storms, no worry that pirates would come in the night, or that some sea monster decided their boat looked like a treat. But all that's behind me now. With the deals made in the Traders Guild and contracts signed off on, I wouldn't have to make the journey overseas from now on. Surely Brim could find someone to replace me. It would give me more time to spend with my family. Time to watch my boys become men and take over the farm. Time to see my daughter grow up, get married, and have kids of her own. As I sit in front of my home, looking out over the fields and watch as the sky turns from a deep purple to blue, and the last of the morning mist begins to disappear. "Morning, Dad," said a voice from behind me, taking me from my musing. I turned to see Jared coming out of the house, a cup in each hand, wisps of steam still coming from them. "Ah, morning, son," I replied cheerily. "What has you up at this hour?" I asked, hand outstretched to take the offered cup. "Ah, habit, I suppose," Jared replies, fighting through a yawn, clearly still waking up as he hands me the hot cup of tea. Sitting down next to me, I like to get up early, before everyone, help Mum with a few of the morning jobs, but since she traded a lot of the chickens, I suppose there wasn't a reason to get up. "Well, in that case, you can help me with my jobs." "Your jobs? What are you talking about?" Taking a few tentative sips from the hot cup, trying not to scald my mouth, but still wanting to enjoy the morning cup. "I'll show you. Be right back." Going back inside, I quietly walk through our home until I get to the room Caitlin and I share. I carefully move two of the floorboards. Hidden just underneath is our family hammer, similar to the long hammer I would bring with me when I went to trade, but this hammer was an ugly lump of iron, unadorned, bar the family house name etched into either side. The handle, instead of soft leather like would be on my war hammer, this had a bare handle. It was about 3 foot in length and made from the belly of an oak tree. Runes were etched along the handle. Some I recognised as the same ones I had on my own hammer, but others I had no idea what they were. I run my hand down the full length of the handle as my fingers brush each rune. I quietly make my way towards Jared, hammer in hand, as I step out of our home. My son's eyes go wide as he sees what I carry with me. "Wake your brother. Tell him we'll be gone for a few hours and he needs to turn on the harvesters in an hour to till the soil in field 1 today. Also, fill a small pack with food and water." As Jared goes back into our home, I stand outside, finishing my morning cup as I watch the sun rise and enjoy the feeling of the morning sun as it warms my face. Hearing Jared approach, I throw the remnants of the cup onto the ground and place the cup to one side. "So, what's these jobs you need my help with?" Jared asks, standing next to me, one eye on the hammer at my side. "Not job, son, just job. Today, we go hunting, and pray to Guntariel we don't catch anything." We walk for several hours. As we walked, we shared stories. Jared talks about the lands, about how they fared while I was away, and their short trading trips into the town. After he finishes telling me what he can remember, Jared presses me for more stories about my travels, asking about the people, what they looked like, what they wore. I tell him about the strange garb that the people in Fell Manor wore, how the fabric shifted in colours, how it moved as the person wearing it moved, that it would never stay the same colour. Seeing the wonder in him was something to behold. They must be a great people to have such incredible things that had been made so common. That is where I tell him about the other half of the city. I tell him about the vagrants and the destitute, those forgotten by their fellows and left like trash in the street. This is the price of technology and wealth. Technology makes people feel more mechanical, and when there are people who have too much, there are always people who have too little. As we walk, Jared speaks again. "You didn't tell me what we're hunting. I didn't even bring my bow." "We won't need it," I tell him. "Well, more so, if we find the creature we hunt, it won't be much use to you." After a short moment, I see the barely visible tops of trees in the distance. Let's rest here for a while. Going to a knee, Jared takes the pack from over his shoulder, and opening it, hands me some dried meat and fruit before taking some for himself. As we eat, I break the silence. We're set out towards the wildlands today. "The wildlands?" Jared asks in shock, and then, in almost a whisper, as if it were some secret that is only to be shared between us. "But Dad, you told us never to go near the wildlands, that they're cursed." "Cursed? You can listen to too much of the elders' stories," I say with a chuckle. "No, son, the wildlands aren't cursed, but they are very dangerous, and we need to respect that danger. I have brought you as far as I dare go towards that land. We won't get any closer. Do you see the tops of those trees? Jared nods. Well, those trees make up the border between our lands and theirs. But today, we have a job to do. One that we will do every morning over the next few weeks. All the men of the families share this responsibility, and now you are part of this as well. There are elements in this world that would threaten our way of life, and the work we do today helps to protect our farms, our crops, our way of life, and even more important than all of that, the families and elders in our village. Today, son, we are looking for scrapiers. Now, folks, that is the end of episode 7 of our book Viralkien, Whispers of the Goddess. I hope you've enjoyed it today. If you have made it this far into the video, don't forget to give us a like and a sub. Appreciate you coming on this journey with us, and until next time, be seeing you.